up, everybody? It's your boy the Kryptonian Saiyan here, bringing you a review for One Piece chapter 585. Man, this is a good one, man. I'm loving these flashbacks, and I love how this was a small retcon, but it works because it wasn't forced into the story. But you know, having Sabo there when Ace and Luffy exchange the cups, and we get the full context behind the story of how they became brothers, that was really cool, man. That was really cool. And the reason why I said it's a small retcon is it wasn't shown, but it's believable. So in that case, you could say there was foreshadowing, but we didn't have the full context. But it still falls under the scope of a retcon. So I like that. And I like how we're seeing the bonds between these three just grow even stronger. And I like how the chapter opens up and Luffy hasn't gotten a full grasp on his devil fruit powers yet. And he accidentally clobbers himself. What I thought was really cool about that is he loses 50 times to Ace and Sabo. And it's just like, damn, Luffy was getting his ass kicked. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, I remember when I read chapter 1 and when Luffy, towards the end of that, when he set sail, I'm going, well, damn. How the hell did Luffy get strong enough to take out that whale or that shark, whatever it was that bit off part of Shanks' arm? Like, how did that happen? Now I understand, because you know all this takes place after Luffy and Shanks had their thing and Luffy ate the devil fruit. And so I thought that was pretty cool that, you know, we're getting to answer that. And it's just showing, you know, Luffy's got that, I wouldn't call it new age, because this has been a while. This has been going on since about the late 80s. But, you know, with shonens having their main characters kind of struggle and work through things, and they're kind of prodigies of hard work. And that's what it is with Luffy. Luffy had a very humble beginnings. He wasn't the strongest, wasn't the best fighter, wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, still is a fucking dumbass, but Luffy continued to work at it, and he's got that gut. He's got the, he's got those guts. He's got that determination, things that you can't teach, the intangibles. And that's what I really like about just kind of reading Luffy in this whole training part. And what I also like is how Sabo and Ace, they're pretty close to each other in power. You know, Ace was whooping their ass, and one of the things I thought was pretty cool is the fact that Luffy says, well, when I become 10, I'm going to beat you guys' ass. And then they say, okay, but we'll be 13. And it's really cool to kind of see that, you know, to see that dynamic, because I can relate to Luffy in that instance. Because when I used to go up to my cousin's house and everything, my cousins stayed probably about 250 miles away from me, and one of them is about 4 years older than me, and the other one is 3 years older than me. And I used to have the same thing. I used to have the same type of relationship with them. We'd always be fighting and throwing hands at each other. You know, when I took some karate classes, you know, I'd be using that. That shit don't work against, like, and I was younger at the time too. So let me rephrase that, because, you know, you could probably fuck somebody up if you did it, you know, straight up. I mean, MMA is a good example of that, but I was trying to pull out shit I was learning in class and everything. I guess I was being too obvious. They just picked me up and body slammed my ass. Like, we used to go at it. So reading that, it was completely awesome to see that. And I like how later on in the chapter you got Garp, and Garp just shows up, and Garp's just throwing their ass around. And that was another moment where, you know, some of my childhood memory came back, because for me, I remember when my uncle, is very sick right now, by the way, but my uncle at the time, you know, he married my mom's sister, and then they ended up getting divorced. Still my uncle though. He shows up, and you know, my two cousins were ganging up on me, right? We used to have these like free falls, and they just ganged up on me. I had a very smart mouth. They ended up tag teaming my ass, and anyways, my uncle shows up and he says, "Oh, okay, well, you teamed up on him. Well, you three come at me." And he's throwing our ass all around and everything. But he took a little harder on my two cousins, because, you know, I'm a little younger than Luffy at that point. And so, I mean, it's kind of cool to see that, man. I was geeking out when I read that part, man. That was so fucking awesome to see. And it just makes you realize that Garp was probably going through a whirlwind of emotions when he was watching Ace get executed, and when he was looking at the fact that Akainu was coming after Luffy. I can see why Garp hesitated as long as he did, and why he put on the show like he was going to do something to Luffy, and then he gave up because he couldn't bring himself to do it. And that makes me wonder something. How is Garp going to go forward with the Navy now? And it's not so much because they killed Ace, but if you look at it, when you have an OG like Smoker who is sitting there and he's saying like, "Oh, they're bloodlusted. This isn't it." Even a newcomer like Kobe realizes we broke the pirate spirit. This should be more than enough, and yet Akainu's pushing forward. There's complete madness that's taking place, and during that time, I don't remember seeing Garp. And one of the things that kind of gets me on that is if Garp is this old time hero, has these old values, and was a stand up dude, stand up enough that he took care of Roger's son because he said he's innocent, then at some point when you're looking at what happened with the Whitebeard pirates and how they continue the slaughter fest, it makes me wonder what Garp's gonna do, because he's got enough clout in the Navy where he could probably fuck up a few times, but he's outranked, and in stuff like that, your rank kind of determines where you fall. And so it makes me wonder what's Garp gonna do, because I don't see him continue to put up with bullshit like this. Because, excuse me, the fact of the matter is, the Navy's changed. Navy's changed, and it's kind of like when you have some soldiers when they go to war, they come back and they don't re-enlist because they see things that, and I know this from some of my friends who have served, they see things that make them question whether or not we're doing the right thing, or in this case the Navy, but they question whether or not we're making the right decisions because they're having to cross moral lines. And on one hand, it's to protect your country, but on the other hand, it's making you kind of wonder, at what point do we look past nationalities and start saying, hey, they're human like us, they have rights like us. And I have a couple friends who they pulled out because of some shit that they saw. So I'm wondering what Garp's dilemma is going to be, because he clearly has an internal struggle. But how's this going to affect Garp? Because it goes back to writing and character interactions and fleshing out a character. And Oda does a good job at that. Like I don't feel as if there are a lot of flat characters in One Piece. I feel like there are a few. There's stock characters. They're there to serve a specific purpose within an arc, and then you really don't hear from them anymore. But the major players in the arc, even secondary characters like Vivi, they go through arcs of their own. And so that's one of the reasons I really like reading One Piece. And when I get caught up, I'm actually going to go back and reread. I know it's going to take a while, but I'm going to go back and reread everything, because I want to make sure that I pay specific attention to different character arcs, because hindsight is a motherfucker in 2020. So I can't wait to do that. But see, I like that aspect of it. Now, getting back to the chapter, I also enjoyed how you see Luffy and Sabo and Ace, at one point they're saying, hey Luffy, we're going to get us some crocodile. It's going to go really good with rice, but don't get your ass eaten this time, okay? And it's just like another Luffy, you big dummy moment. I totally enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed how they're going through and they're eating at the different shops and just raising hell, right? They're raising hell, and Ace, looks up and it's like, Sabo, I think that dude's calling you. And you can tell there's some recognition there. And Sabo's like, he must have made a mistake. And while all this is going on, Luffy leaves a note and he says, I owe you treasure, Luffy. He signs his name. It's just like, you dumbass, you just stole food. Like, you ate and you ran out. You don't leave your fucking name. That's how people find you. And I don't know if that's how, Bluejam and them ended up finding Sabo, but that's how Sabo's father brings him in. This comes after we find out that Sabo is the son of an aristocrat. So I just blew my whole theory about the Celestials. Whoops. But, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But what I thought was really cool is how Sabo was just talking about expectations and class. And that's something Otis touched on a few different times, but hasn't really dived fully into it. And I like how he's showing us another perspective of it. And this is another instance where, for me, things kind of just made me stop and say, holy shit, I can kind of relate to this. Because when Sabo's talking about how his father wanted him to marry his father wanted him to marry a woman from a rich bloodline, a girl from a rich bloodline, and it's all about money, and if he doesn't get somebody that's of the same class, he's trash. And hold on a second. Okay. And if he doesn't get somebody of the same class, he's trash. And if he's got time to draw, then he's nothing but trash. He's wasting his time. He's saying he works hard, and he's putting all this pressure on his kids. And while I personally don't have a lot with that, I understand the expectations. Like, I come from a family of bankers, okay? Like, my mom's in banking, my aunt's in banking, my sister's in banking, very high up. Like, my mom was really big at Bank of America before Bank of America kind of tanked down during the recession that happened in 2008. And so I've been around like a lot of really rich bankers and everything. And, my mom made good money, but with my mom, came from more of a working class environment. So my mom, even though she was making really good money, she didn't let it go to her head. So I didn't have that stuff instilled in me. Like, my grandfather ran his own business. My mom, paid her way through college and went through on scholarships and paid the rest in difference, and worked her way up from being a teller to being as high up as she was at Bank of America. So I come from a different background. So I kind of understand where Luffy and Ace and Sabo are coming through, and they're saying we just want to make our own way. You get this moment where they all each declare they want to be captains, and they each realize, which is very mature of them, they realize that that's not going to work, because you can't have three people who want to be the boss. That's why Luffy and Usopp kind of got into it, and I understood that. That's why I was going, what's going on with Luffy and Usopp? When is this going to come to an head? And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. So I like that, and where I kind of understood where Sabo's coming from is it's something that I've had conversations with. I've had conversations with my girl where we're talking in different backgrounds, and one of the things that ends up coming out is it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going into a career field that is going to make me a shit ton of money. You come from a really, really nice background. Like, your family does really, really well for itself. And, because I'm down in the South and some more shit, it's different. Not all places like this, but the area of the South that I'm in is still a little backwards. And so one of the problems that, I was running into was, like, my mom made an offhand comment, like, I'm really afraid he's going to marry this white girl. I have to deal with a similar thing with, her family, where it's just like, because I'm skin color that I am, there's a knee-jerk reaction. It doesn't matter that, I was an honor student. It doesn't matter that I was a editorial assistant. It doesn't matter that I've written. It doesn't matter any of this stuff. The drive, anything, is you judge people when you first meet them. It's a harsh reality. And for me to come from the background I do, where I don't have old money. Old money being money is passed down to generations. My family's more land wealthy. We had a lot of land. But even then, that's just going back about 4 generations. So that still counts. Her family is really well off, and it's been really well off for a while. Like, literally, like, grew up in 2 different areas of town. So I totally get it. I totally get it. Like, when Sabo is looking, he's just like, well, they're going to hurt my friends. I'll go back and I'll live with you. Just spare my friends. And when Sabo did that, it just showed an understanding. And he realized, and this is, sad, but he didn't realize the other part of this. He realized that he needed to take one for the team and give up his dream in order to protect those that he loved. But at the same time, he didn't have to turn his back. But because he's so young, he didn't realize that there's always an option. Family's going to love you regardless. And that's one of the things, we're going through. And I'm starting to learn is that, right now, my mom doesn't accept it, doesn't really see it. But eventually, she's gonna accept it because I'm her son. And that's the same thing to my girl. Like, hey, family, they're gonna get on board regardless. Because at the end of the day, you want your kids to be happy. And that's the thing with Sabo's parents, in particular his father. I don't think he's fully got it because his son's so young. And I can understand, Sabo's at that age where you're young and you're impressionable, and you don't want your kid to go down the wrong path, especially when you start them off to where they can be super successful. And yet, as a parent, you have to understand, like, hey, this is the thing. This is what I want for you, but what do you want? You have to let your kids take their own path, even if you don't fully agree with it. And that's the difference between Sabo and, like, Sabo's father and Garp. Garp did want them to be a Navy man, but at the same time, he accepted the fact they're pirates. He didn't agree with it, but he accepted it. And that's the difference. I really like how Oda, in the same chapter, has Garp show up. Even though Garp doesn't know they're going to be pirates, in the back of his mind, he knows it's coming. He's just enjoying the time that he has with them while it's there. Whereas Sabo's father shows up and says, nah, little fucker, you're coming back with me. So my chapter question to you guys is, what were your thoughts about Oda's whole take on class in this? And do you wish he would have dived a little deeper into it, or do you think that he did enough? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching the end of the video, guys. Have an awesome day.